Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. Brexit Britain, a country where a government minister can take a flight for £500,000. I suppose they call that levelling up at 40,000 feet. And also, welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages you sent me. And a special thanks here to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that have signed up. So thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like your messages for definite. So today we start off with the sad news of the passing of Barry Cryer. You know, Barry Cryer, an absolute icon. Right, an absolute icon. You know, thing is, right, you know, I don't really like to know about people's private life, so I don't really know anything about his private life as such. Do you know what I mean? Because every single time, yeah, I find out about like someone famous who I really like, private life, right? I just, you know, you just find out, oh God, there was a flipping racist again, right? This happened to me on numerous occasions. Happened to me. I would say it happens to me with Rowan Atkinson, for example, yeah. And I found out, you know, Rowan Atkinson, right, absolutely one of the funniest men in this country. But that's my personal opinion. Really, really funny, right? You know, your Blackadder, right? Your Johnny English, your Thin Blue Line. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's really, really funny stuff, right? And then I find out that his brother is like a UKIP councillor or whatever, and immediately, yeah, I'm just like, that just immediately puts me straight off of that person. Do you know what I mean? Straight away. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, so you was really brought up in a racist motherfucking family that your brother's a UKIP councillor? Seriously? Do you know what I mean? I mean, do you support your brother? Well, whatever the case, do you know what I mean? So that just puts me off those other people. And it happened to me the other day with like Arnold Schwarzenegger now as well, do you know what I mean? Because while Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California, wherever he was governor, yeah, there was there's a young girl, right? Now, she got picked up, young black girl, she got picked up, right, by a pimp when she was 11 years old, right, who basically groomed her, right? You know, he was I think he was in his 30s, right? So he started to groom this 11-year-old child, right? You know, taking her and her friends ice skating, cinema, and you know, to the fair, and you know, would always take them out for ice cream and all these things there, yeah. So by the time she was 13, 14, right? This guy started having sex with this girl, and next thing he's putting her out on the street, right? Because this guy's a pimp. So by the time the girl got to 16 years old, right, he's taken her to a hotel room, right, and someone had given her a gun, and so she shot him in the back of the head, right, and obviously killed him, right. So, right, in her trial, right, she was not allowed to use any of that about what had happened to her. They wouldn't allow her to use any of that, right. So then, one of those justice people must have got involved in her case, because they looked, because she got I think at 16 or 17 or 18 she got a life sentence, right, without the possibility, with no parole, right. So they've looked. So one of these justice, like, you know, they had a lot of those. You got a lot of solicitors and lawyers out in America who look at cold cases, and think, oh, this person shouldn't be there, right? So they've looked at the case, right? So they've gone to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was the governor at the time, right? And so he's got all this information, right? And instead of him saying, you know what, yeah, this girl, she shouldn't have been in prison in the first place, right? Because of the circumstances, and none of this had come out in court, right? Of what actually happened to her, right? So she shouldn't have been in the first place. She should not have been, right, in court anyway, right? Because she's killed someone who's terrorizing her, right? And then, right, instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, you know what, I'm just going to give her a straight pardon, no. He's just given her basically time served. He's let her out, but he's just given her time served, which I'm like, well, that can't be right. That shouldn't be right. Do you know what I mean? Because I know for a fact, if it was a little white girl and who wouldn't have been in those circumstances anyway, because you know the courts would have been, oh, well, she's been abused. This is why she shot him. This is why she shot the pimp in the head. Oh God, we can't put her in prison. She's traumatized. Right? But little black girl, she gets thrown in. She gets her ass thrown in prison. Right? And Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, didn't go. He should have went out of his way to say, you know what, this was completely ridiculous, right? And she should have never been in prison in the first place, and give her a complete pardon. Do you know what I mean? But he never done that. But anyway, back to Barry Cryer, because we've gone off on one. Right, so Barry Cryer now, yeah. I actually saw Barry Cryer in Brighton back in the 90s, right? And there's one joke that I can always remember him on stage, right, where he said that there's a man on a train, right, and he was sat across to a woman, right, and the train, and every time the train stopped at a station, right, the woman put her Bible away, right. So the train take off. She opens back the Bible and starts reading. Right? And then the train stops. She puts the Bible, tucks it away, puts it in her bag. Train starts, Bible out again. So when the guy got to the next station, he said to her, "Excuse me, but why do you keep putting your Bible away every time we get into a station?" She said, "Why don't you fuck off?" I found it funny anyway, right? So look, we've got a man in his 70s, right, who's been stopped in a car park by the police, and then he admitted to the police, yeah, that he has never had a driver's license. He's been driving for over 70 years. He's never had a driver's license. I hope I didn't say a man in his 70s. A man who's been driving over 70 years. So he's never had a driver's license. Right? He's never had car insurance, and this is the first ever time he's been stopped after 70 years. I bet he's not black, because I can tell you, right, that I've been stopped, right, over 1,000 times. Count them. Yeah, 50, 99, 1,000. Over 1,000 times, right? I heard a story, right, of a guy. You know, this guy, right? He got arrested, right? He got stopped by the police. Yeah, the first ever time he's been stopped. I think it was something like over 40 years of driving. First ever time he'd been stopped, right? Turns out, right, that he's drunk and in charge of a motor vehicle. The first ever time he's been stopped. I've been stopped over 1,000 times. Right? I have never, right, been over the limit, right, behind the wheel. I know that for a fact because I don't actually drink. Right? The only time I have a drink is like at Christmas, where I have a bottle of champagne. Right? I've never, right, in all the 1,000 times I've been stopped, never been arrested while driving. Very strange, right? Don't you think? Very, very strange that you've got two cases here, right? One, never ever been stopped. First time he gets stopped, doesn't have a license. Got to be in his 80s. No license. No insurance ever. Ever. Right? Another one, first ever time he's stopped, he's drunk. Well, he's over the limit. Right? You say, hold on a minute, are you serious? Yeah. Because that has always been Great Britain. Right? The police, right? You see when people say about defunding the police, I can give you so many stories why the police should be defunded. Right? In the man hours that the police have wasted on me, the hours they've wasted on me. Right? I can give you, they could take back so much of those hours, right, and give the money back in the hours that these people have wasted on me. Right? And I can tell you, right, there's going to be plenty of black and brown people that have exactly the same story as me. Right? That's why when they say talk about defund, right, I could give you real stories of defunding, right, and why they should defund. Because clearly, right, if you've got people who are driving around for over 70 years with no driver's license, right, and your focus, right, has always been on, chase down the black and brown people, right, don't you think you've been wasting your motherfucking time? right? If people could be driving for over 40 years and the first time they're stopped, right, they're found to be over the limit. Seriously. that right is Great Britain. Brexit Britain. That's it. And it's like this has always been like, but it's always been like that. And now Formula One, yeah, they changed their management structure because of the cheating that Lewis Hamilton was cheated out of the last championship in the last race of the season. So now they're going to change the management structure so to make sure that these type of things can't happen again. Do you know what I mean? You know, but you know, as you see, Lewis just said, you know what? Rather than like going to court and fighting with all that nonsense, do you know what I mean? I've got a whole heap of championships already, so you know what? Just let him run with this one. Do you know what I mean? He knows, and I know what really happened. You know, so Lewis, you know how Lewis is. I mean, Lewis is just a real gentleman, and that's what they don't, and that's what they really hate about Lewis Hamilton. They hate the fact that Lewis Hamilton's a full supporter of Black Lives Matter. And think, well, seriously, these people have real issues, right? Do you know, yeah, that over half of the staff in the NHS, right, want to leave the service, right, because they're burnt out. Right, they're feeling, you know, some of them feeling mentally ill. I'll tell you what the problem is, though. Yeah, is I don't think, yeah, that they've been working hard enough. Because if they was working harder, then they'd be having parties at the end of the day, and that's what the problem is. Right? Because you see how all the Tory MPs and the ministers are coming out and saying, well, these people, you know, they work so hard, and at the end of the day, just to let their hair down. You know, because remember, yeah, these guys, you know, they're working in heavy PPE all day, right? You know, and you know remember when we had the real shortage? These guys, they had on like they used to have on like refuge sacks they was wrapped in, right? You know, having to phone people and say to their parents, or say to the children, you know, listen, you know what, your parents on the last legs, they're just about to die of COVID. Would you like to speak to them over this iPad? You know, having to watch people die and putting people on ventilators, and you know, no wonder, right? You have to say, no wonder, you know, these civil servants, right, was working so. Oh, sorry, no, sorry, I just got that wrong. That's the NHS staff who was working, right? No wonder they're all burnt out and feeling mentally ill. Right. But you know, the good thing is, right, if we go out on this Thursday and just go, yeah, but serious, right? You see how it's obvious that the NHS workers will be burnt out. Do you know what I mean? Because you know these guys have been through so much that you know a lot of them have actually walked away. A lot of them have actually walked away, but there's a lot of them who can't actually just walk away from their jobs. Do you know what I mean? Because like you know they're passionate about what they do, right? So and we're very lucky. We are exceptionally lucky, you know, not so lucky with our civil servants in Downing Street, but we're very lucky with the NHS workers that we have. You know, it's just, you know, those are the people, right, who have pulled off, right, you know, the vaccine rollout that Boris Johnson is taking full. You know, the man is just taking the full, you know, everything. Oh, it's him. I rolled out the vaccine, yeah, with your money. With the taxpayers' money, I rolled out the vaccine. You know, that's like, you know, the women, you know, your missus saying to you, you know what, can you go down the shop and get some Calpol? Right? You go and get the Calpol, right? And then you expect, right, praise as if you had made the Calpol. So no, all you've done is just went to the shop and got the Calpol, right? You didn't make the fucking thing, you just went and got it. Right? You know, it's not down to you, right? Why the child now's temperature's gone down. You helped, yeah, and you know, for your help, right? I done you a lovely sandwich downstairs, cheese and cress, okay? So it's soggy. Right, but seriously, I mean, these are the people, the NHS workers, right, are the people, right, who have pulled us through this, who have pulled us through the bulk of this, right, and you know, every minute Boris Johnson is trying to take the you know, trying to take the benefits for it, as if to say it's him who's done it. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got like the people at the top right, being made into like, you know, being given awards, you know, Sir and OBEs and CBs and whatever. Do you know what I mean? What about the, you know, it's the people on the ground. Right, they're the people who have they're the people who have really made this possible. Do you know what I mean? They are the real engine. Right. You know, the other day I heard Downing Street described as the engine. I'm like, no, they're not. They're the steering wheel. Right, that's what they are. They're just a steering wheel. So all the, you know, all they've got on there is the indicators, right? You know, all the indicators, the headlights, right, and they can control the radio. That's what they're doing, right? The real engine of this country, yeah, are the working classes, the people who really kept this country going. Do you know what I mean? You know the supermarket workers. Right, as well, you have to throw them in there as well. Do you know what I mean? Right, you know, I'm not even gonna put the police in there, because you know the police, obviously they had to work throughout it, right? But then, you know, they're up in Downing Street, right, keeping parties with the government, right? You know, along with the media, keeping parties with the government, right? And none of these things, right? All of these are sent, you know, for us to have known, right, that these guys was breaking the rules in the way they was, right, would have been major stories. I mean, there's major stories now, but would have been even bigger, right, at the time when it happened. But they couldn't bring it out at the time when it happened, because all the media guys, they're there as well. They're at the parties as well. They're sharing the cake, the cheese, and the wine as well. So this is the reason, right? You know, when I tell people about the level of corruption in this country, you know, I don't joke about these things, because that is the level of corruption, right? Because there you have it for yourself, right? That the government, right, the police, the media, all involved, all of them, right, have kept these stories away from us for nigh on 2 years. And it's just coming out now, only because, right, people are trying to bring Boris Johnson down. So you know what? They say, oh well, you know what? We'll give them all the stories now. We'll tell them what's really been going on. Should have been telling us at the time, at the actual time when it was going on, because you know we live in a culture of 24-hour media. Right, something can happen on the other side of the world, right? And you know something, it's going to flash up on my phone as a news report on the other side of the world, right? You know, it could be in Australia, right? It could be in the Caribbean, it could be in Africa. It doesn't matter where it is, right? It's going to flash up on my phone. It's going to flash up on my computer, on my laptop. It's going to flash up on my iPad. These things are going to flash up. Right, so we're going to know, right? So the media, right, holding all of this from us, right? How the government have been lying and cheating their way through all of this, right? This is the reason why they could have all this level of corruption in this country, right? Because we have a prime minister, right, who would lie, right, about saving dogs and cats over the life of brown people, because that's where we are, right? You see, only Boris Johnson could fuck something up so spectacularly, right? Because the email that I saw, right, that was on the media, right, said that the Prime Minister, right, has authorised pen farthing, right, to bring him back, his staff and his animals, right? Which, by any means, right, is going to be a good news story, unless you're Boris Johnson and you can fuck it up. And that's exactly what he's done, right? Because Boris Johnson, right, hasn't stressed to people, listen, make sure that there are human beings on the flight. That part you stress, and you stress that to the person that you send the email to, and you say to them, listen, if there's no humans come back on that flight, make sure that you don't come back to your job ever again after that, okay? You just don't come back ever again. So you make sure that that person understands how serious it is to get human beings on the flight, right? So Boris Johnson, it seems, done the right thing, even though he's denying it now, because he's got to deny it, because the flight come back, yeah, with the cargo hold full of animals and just pen farthing on the flight. That's how the flight come back, right? When the flight could have taken like probably 160 to 200 people, right? But it's come back with just penfarthing on it and his animals full, right? So now, right, I'm looking and saying, well, hold on a minute. You're telling me that penfarthing decided that, you know what, he's going to leave the people, right, and take the animals. Really? Really, penfarthing? Seriously? Because I've heard that a lot of these people that penfarthing left over there are dead. All right. So, you know, I don't understand how you can get to the airport, right, and don't insist that these people get on that flight, right, or you're not going. Because that's what I would have said. I would have said, listen, well, you know what, I'm just going to have to take my chances in Afghanistan then. That's all I'm going to do. Because I can't come back leaving all these people and taking all these animals. So I'm just going to have to take my chances over here. I'm sorry, but that's, you know, unless you can get me on this flight with these people, I cannot leave these people behind. But you know what? Bunch of brown people. So Penfarthing's like, well, you know what this country's like, right? Remember back in the day, right? There's no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. Right? So if there's a black Irish wolfhound, you ain't getting no room to stay anywhere. That's one of Lenny Henry's jokes, by the way. But obviously said in a Brummy accent, and it's much more funny. All right. Anyway, let's move on, right? Because that story is really annoying to me. Do you know what I mean? That Penfarthing and people are holding them up as some type of hero. Do you know what I mean? After you've gone and left a whole heap of brown people there to be murdered by the Taliban and brought back a fucking cargo full of fucking animals. That story's annoying, right? Anyway, I don't know if you saw Lord Agnew the other day in the House of Lords, right, where he's gone in there and he's gave a speech and he's just ripped into the government because he's a minister, he's some type of finance minister or something like that, right, and he's just ripped into the government because, you know what, because of the wastage of the money over the whole coronavirus thing. But I don't really think that he's upset about the 47 billion that they've handed out to their friends and their donors. Right? He seems to be a lot more upset about the bounce back loan money that's been lost. Right? That's what he seems to be a lot more upset about. And, you know, a lot of people probably have taken bounce back loans. I mean, knowing that, you know what, I can't pay this back, but I just need the money to get by. Do you know what I mean? And the government made it very easy for people to get the money. So, you know, so you can't blame people for getting the money. I don't understand how there could have been so much fraud in it, because first of all, right, you know, to get a bounce back loan, you would need to have a business bank account. I mean, you might have been able to get it in a personal bank account, but you would need to have a business bank account. From what I know, right, and then they pay money into that. And at the time of the pandemic, right, you know, you couldn't open bank accounts, right, and you know, you couldn't open bank accounts. So I don't know how people could have went and bought a dormant company, and then because a dormant company doesn't come with a bank account, that's something that you have to open, right? So I don't see how. You know, because they're saying that a lot of fraud has gone on because of it, but I just don't see how that works, really. Do you know what I mean? Because I know that, as I said, I'm not sure. You might have been able to get it paid into your personal account, right? You know, but I know it would have been a lot easier with a business account. But you know, but someone who's just buying a dormant company, they wouldn't have a business account. Do you know what I mean? That, you know, so I don't know how the fraud works on that. But Lord Agnew, if you see the way how he walked out of the Lords, right, he just made his speech, right, and just basically said to them, "Goodbye, I'm never coming back," right, and he just walked out, right, and just left the mic there, right. It's just like he just dropped the mic. And just left it, and that was it. And he just walked straight out. It's like, wow. You know what I mean? But that's what's going on in Boris Johnson's government. A whole heap of nonsense, right? So we move on to like the Ukraine business. What's going on in the Ukraine? Because you see, I've been watching some Russian TV, right? And what's going on in Russia, right, is obviously it's just the same propaganda that you know they give their people propaganda in exactly the same way that our governments just give us propaganda, right? So what's going on is that the Russian people, right, are seeing 8,500 American troops, right, readying up for war, because that's what the Americans have. You know, the Americans are getting ready to deploy 8,500 troops into Europe, right? So they're seeing, that's what the Russians are saying, and the Russians are, and they're seeing, like, you know, all these different countries, right, sending the Ukrainians weapons, right? They're not the Russian people yet are not hearing any of the propaganda that's coming from us to say to the Russian people, listen, this is going to be a really bloody event if it does kick off, right? Because you see, got to remember, right, that Putin, right, is playing a devious game. Right? Putin has got a country of poor people. Right, and the thing, you know, the way to keep poor people on side, right, is to make them think, right, that, you know what, you are part of what goes on in this country. Make them feel like they're patriots, right, right. Because when you do that to people, right, you can keep them in all sorts of different hovels. It don't matter, right? Because, you know, what they do is they wrap themselves in the flag. Right? So that's what Putin is doing. Putin's just making the Russians just wrap themselves in the flag. Right? Because, you see, to keep a dictatorship, right, it's not easy. Right? And you have to, you know, because you can do it with brutal force, like Kim Jong-un. Right? Or, right, you can do it where you say that, you know what, those people, right, they're always out to get us, always, right? So we have to spend all these billions of pounds on the military, right, while you're suffering, while you're there suffering, right, maybe freezing in your house, because Russia's very cold, maybe freezing in your house with a lack of food to eat. But then look at all these Russian billionaires all over the world. So, you know, you know, it just shows the world who we really are, and that's the game that Putin's playing. Do you know what I mean? It's a very, very sad game, but, you know, but I mean, over here it's a very similar thing. Do you know what I mean? Where you've got the people over here supporting a government that, I don't know, just takes the piss out of them all on a regular basis. That's what the people over here support. You know, so it's the same type of thing. Do you know what I mean? You know, our government ministers, right, will speak about, like, places like Russia in very derogative terms, right? And how it's Putin this and Putin that and Putin this and everything is Putin. Right? And you come over here, right, and you've got MPs coming out and soiling themselves in public for Boris Johnson. You say, well, the difference is, yeah, at least, right, Putin will kill you, right, if you don't do what he says. At least, right, you know, he will have you shot, right outside the motherfucking Kremlin, right, when there's no security, the security cameras was off. Oh, sorry, security cameras wasn't working. Right, at least there's that. But these guys over in this country, I don't know why they're out in public soiling themselves for Boris Johnson. Right? At least, yeah, Putin will give you a cup of tea laced with Novichok, so it rips the motherfucking nerves from your soul. Right? But these guys, right, are out lying to the Queen for Boris Johnson. You think, how the hell does he get them to do these things? You know, I'm quite sure, right, that Boris Johnson could just say to one of his ministers, you shoot that guy in the House of Parliament, I'll take the blame. And it would happen, and they'll just say, well, the man, he saw the gun, and then he saw the gun went off, and he moved in the way of the bullet. He walked into the bullet. It was his fault. He dove. The bullet was going that way, and he dove towards that way. That is, it's just amazing. Right? And these same ministers will tell you, right, how Putin is this and Putin's that, while they're out right, soiling themselves in public over Boris Johnson. I think, seriously. But that's where we are. But anyway, so yeah, so that's what's happening. The Russian people, yeah, all they're seeing is our build up, and the Russian people believe that we are the aggressor. They don't know nothing about the 100,000 Russian troops that are on the border there. They don't know anything about the Russians moving their warships around. And now, because all that's happening, the people are saying, well, Russia has got to protect itself. So now Putin's got the Russian people on his side. So all the propaganda where our politicians are trying to say to them, no, listen, you know what, if it happens, it's going to be really bad. But I mean, they have said that, but again, right? You know what? I'm already 30 minutes in, man. Right? But again, right? The Russians, right, have had good news from the Chinese. Because the Chinese have basically said, listen, you know what, yeah, if you're going to do anything, yeah, can you just wait until after the Winter Olympics? So we know that nothing's going to happen until after the Winter Olympics, right? But as I said, the more we build up troops and that, right, is the more propaganda goes into Russia, and the more the Russian people are saying, listen, you know what, we need to stand up for ourselves, right? We can't allow these people to bully us, and that's exactly what Putin wants. That's exactly what he wants. And so long as Putin has got China on side, right, because probably you can probably any country could probably just deal with just China alone and be able to survive, because they just do it in China. They do everything in it, so it's not going to be so the Russians, so long as they can keep his friendship with China, and you never know, right? The Chinese may well be planning, right, to say, you know what, if the Russians do that, right, then we're going to go and start on Taiwan. Do you know what I mean? So and obviously then, right, the US and the rest of the West is in they're in turmoil now, because it's on two different fronts now, and you're talking about two serious armies. You're not talking about just going and giving the Iraqis a good beating, right? You're talking about serious warfare now, right, where you're talking about a lot of body bags, right, coming back to Britain and America. And I'm not sure, right, that our babushkas, our women folk, are going to be happy, right, seeing their children coming back in body bags. So their fathers won't be either, right? Because that's what happened. That's what will happen. I mean, that would be, we will just hope that nothing don't start getting nuclear. But if those two places kick off, then that's where we're gonna be, right? And and as I said, I don't think the world will be ready, right, for all the body bags. Don't think it will be ready for that, right? But anyway, we're already 32 minutes in, and we need to speak about some Brexit, right? So Liz Truss, our pencil neck tin Lizzie Truss, right, has decided, that a normal first class flight is not enough, because you know what, $7,500 is, I think about $7,500, right, to fly first class to Australia. So Liz Truss is like, I need to take the government's private jet, right, that obviously would need to be refueled twice on the way there and obviously on the way back. Right, but this flight's £500,000, right, to fly 13 people over to Australia to go and get us a trade deal that's going to net us less than £1 per household. But it's important business. It's important business here that could be done over motherfucking Zoom. Right? And Liz Truss is out there trying to defend it with her pencil motherfucking neck. Has that woman got any teeth? Well, next time you see Liz Truss, yeah, just tell me, has she got any teeth? Because every time she's speaking, right, and she's had that voice, she's had like some type of voice control lessons as well. Do you know what I mean? Because now she's speaking a lot more like Mrs. Thatcher, right? But £500,000, right? Just the time when we're supposed to be levelling up, right? But Liz Truss is just like, yeah, well, don't worry, I'm going to go and level you up at 40,000 feet. While sipping champagne on my private government chartered flight. All right, and right, it costs, right, obviously £500,000, right, and it takes longer to get there because you have to stop and refuel twice. You know what they say, innit, right? Measure twice, cut once. Right. And the DUP are facing ridicule over the Irish border checks, but the DUP face ridicule every day anyway, so that's not really an issue, because the DUP should be ridiculed because these people don't understand politics, so they should be ridiculed on a regular basis. Every day that the DUP are ridiculed is a good day for mankind, right? And the only people, yeah, who are reporting on what is actually going on in Dover, yeah, is Byline News, right? Because I saw a report on Byline, right, and I've just got to hurry up now because I'm not nearly 36 minutes in, right? So I saw a report on Byline News, right, and on there, right, they had drivers that have been waiting for 12 hours. 17 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours. One driver had been waiting for 4 days. Right, and he was carrying some type of food products. Not sure whether it was fresh or not, but if it was fresh, right, then his whole trailer, right, will be fucked if it's fresh, right. So that is what's going on, right, in Dover. The only people who are reporting on is Byline News. It's not coming through your TV, it's not coming on your radio, nothing like that, because the government have put blocks on it, and they've told all of the transport companies, right, not to talk to the media. Anyway, guys, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.